There are two categories of people who create content on the internet. Category one, who create content to get more followers, to get more likes, views, and comments, and at the end of the month, after all their hard work, all they're left with is vanity metrics. And category two, who don't create content with the goal of increasing the vanity metrics, but turning their traffic into customers and actually generating revenue from the videos that they create for their business. Personally, I'm in category two, and likely if you're watching this video, so are you, but I can only help you from here if you are in or have aspirations to become in the second category. If you're new here, I'm Jack. I've created over 4,000 videos, generated over 550 clients, around £2.5 million in revenue to date for the businesses that I run, all through posting content and videos on the internet. In this video specifically, I'm going to dive into the 5 ways that you can build an audience of potential buyers and not just passive followers. So when you're ready, let's dive in. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story here, okay, just to get the scene set. I started making content when I was about 14 years old. I started off making gaming videos, albeit I don't have that content anymore because I deleted the channel regrettably when I was younger. I then moved on to creating weekly vlogs whilst I was at university. Over the last couple of years, I moved to comedy sketches, and nowadays I create educational content that essentially shares my value for free. In the early days of creating videos, I tracked the success of whether it was good or whether it was bad, depending on the views, the new followers that I got, the impressions, the comments, the overall engagement, the likes, and all the vanity things that realistically, when you run a business, don't matter. I reached this block quite quickly where I thought, do I keep creating content that's just getting lots of traffic and it's getting lots of attention, or do I use video as the mechanism to get customers for my business? I launched a new agency called V21 at the time, and within about 2 or 3 years, we reached about £100,000 a year. And by 2023, when I was 27 years old, we hit 100K monthly reoccurring revenue just through posting videos on the internet. I know, it's insane, it's wild. Today, I'm a business owner first that uses video to drive sales commercially for my product and my service. And by the end of this video, I'm going to say that you're going to be confidently able to do the same. But to be able to get to that goal, you've got to do one really important thing from the start, and that's to create content that disqualifies people. Viral content and lots of likes and lots of comments is great for mass broad appeal. The problem with this content is it builds an audience of fans and brand advocates, but people that won't necessarily purchase your product or your service. Instead of trying to blend into the mass white noise of the vanilla generic value that's shared on the internet, own a stance, own an opinion, share a perspective that does push people away. There are going to be trolls on the internet. There are going to be people that don't agree with your opinion and your perspective. But equally, there's going to be people that do, and that implicitly trust what you say and see you as an authority in your industry because they back your opinions, and they back your thoughts, and they back your perspectives. This is a great thing, okay? Because it saves you time on qualifying the wrong people. We've all been there on sales calls or talking to people that we feel like we have to convince that what we do is the right thing. But in and of that practice, we waste so much time talking to the wrong people that will never buy our stuff. I see it as more convenient and just better off for the both of us in terms of me as the service provider, you as the consumer, that if you don't agree with what I say, then fly the nest. I call it a buy or fly mentality. Either you buy my stuff or you fly the nest and you move on and you find somebody else that you can click with. Now that could be down to a couple of things. It could be down to how you talk, in the language that you use, the messaging, the type of videos that you create. It could even be down to things like the ideas that you come up with in the first place. Are they slightly bolder? Are they slightly stronger and authoritative in their stance? But you need to spend a bit of time figuring out the balance that allows you to become you on camera, but also has a strong stance that can push the wrong people away. The second most important thing here is to build content around urgent problems. Now, the way that I see it, there are different types of problems. Passive problems, which are things like you're getting low engagement on your videos, or your videos aren't getting many views, or maybe you're stuck with video ideas. These are what I call passive problems. Then you have what I call urgent problems, which are you're lacking sales because your marketing's crap, or you are so overwhelmed with the amount of work that you've got to do, you haven't got time to even think about marketing, and because of that, you're damaging your business. These urgent problems have catastrophic effects commercially and professionally if they're not solved. Passive problems are things that aren't going to keep you up at night and aren't going to keep you sitting there at 3 a.m. with tears in your eyes going, what the hell am I doing with my life? They're things that you can kind of tuck under the rug and maybe get to them in the future when you have a bit of capacity or a bit of thinking space. People are staying up late at night at 3 a.m. writing stuff down on a piece of paper because their business is crumbling, because they haven't got enough cash in the bank to pay their staff, because they've got payroll coming up in 3 weeks, but they haven't got any new clients in the pipeline. That's fucking stressful. So I'll give you 2 examples, right? I'll give you a passive problem, and I'll give you an urgent problem, okay? Here's how to edit your videos in Adobe Premiere Pro. That's an example of a passive problem. It's not something that's immediate, it doesn't really require any sort of urgency, it's something that I'll get to when I have the cognitive load and capacity and mental space to even think about, but for now, I'm all right. Or you could reframe that idea into an urgent problem, something like you're wasting 13 hours a week making these 3 mistakes on Adobe Premiere Pro. That feels like if I don't solve that problem, I could be wasting a lot of time, and that time I could be using to market my business or create bigger, harder working, stronger content that gets me sales. In marketing, you need to both create a desire and an interest in the product or service that you offer, but you also need to create demand to have that problem solved. The third way to build an audience of buyers and not followers is to teach thinking and not just advice. What's crazy is that if you look at, let's say, educational courses, right, the completion rate for an educational course from start to finish is about 4% on average. That means 960 people didn't get to the finish line, which I think is insane. It's absolutely insane. Of those 4% of people, those 40 people that got to the finish line, only 12% of them will actually implement what they learned. So if you had 1,000 people, 40 people got to the finish line, about 4 or 5 people would have actually implemented the stuff that they learned on that course. And then I guess you could argue maybe 1 or 2 of those people actually get the results that they wanted from implementing the stuff that they learned from getting to the finish line of this course. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And now you're probably thinking, well, Jack, why does this happen? What's causing the block? This often occurs because of what's called the intention-action gap. It's essentially where the brain prefers similar habits and familiarity rather than trying something new. So instead of teaching people what to do, you need to teach them why doing it is important. For example, I could now teach you how to build your personal brand with these 27 bulletproof points of wisdom. Or I could create a piece of content around, this is why you need to build your personal brand. And this is why it's important to position yourself alongside narratives and stories and experience-led pieces of content. 1, this builds a stronger connection with your audience. 2, it opens up more trust because you're telling people stuff from your own experience that's lived through by yourself. And 3, it makes you feel more genuine as a person. It opens up the conversations, it feels more natural to engage, and generally speaking, it's just a much more personable experience. The 4th way that you can build an audience of buyers and not followers is to sell. It sounds really simple, but from my experience now, I've been doing this for 10 years, and so many people don't sell. We are, as business owners, pretty bad at selling, especially here in the UK, maybe not so much in the US or other countries, but here in the UK, we find selling a little bit icky. Okay, it's a little bit unnatural. The problem is if you don't actively sell or learn how to sell, your audience stays in this education trap where they are passive consumers and not active buyers. And there are really simple ways that you can start to sell to your audience more. And that might be things like giving a freebie, giving someone an offer that they can download in exchange for their information, even just asking your audience to, hey, check out my product or service, telling people about what you're doing behind the scenes. That in and of itself is a great way to sell the business, I guess, a little bit more passively. Or you could just go balls to the wall and say, hey, I've seen that you've been in this niche and you have a problem with this. I run this company. Do you fancy a chat? And see where it goes. I don't know if it'll work, but it's worth doing it. The key thing here is to sell the outcome and not the product or service that you have created. On the idea of personal branding, don't sell a personal branding course to build your personal brand. Sell the idea of what a magnetic personal brand can do for your business commercially, okay? You need to build this offer first that you can sell rather than building your audience first and then kind of figuring out where you can fit into the market. You need to have this offer pretty much concrete before you start building your audience, and that way you can start to sell to them as the audience grows. That way you can then center all of your content around this main offer and steer traffic to a landing page or an offer or a lead magnet or something that people can download in exchange for their information, and that helps you to grow your lists of leads. And final way to build an audience of buyers and not followers is to offer a natural next step. In the last 2 years, I have worked with probably about 220, 230 different clients. Many of them, from looking into their business and seeing how they market their business, don't have offers that their consumers can naturally bite on. So I'll ask you this, okay? How do you catch a fish if you go fishing? You put a bit of bait on the end of your hook, you throw it in, and you reel it in ever so slowly, and chances are you're gonna get a bite. What you don't do is stick a fucking whale on it, lump it over your shoulder, throw it in, a massive splash, and try and get clients that way. It doesn't work like that. Terrible, terrible analogy as well. In your situation, it might be that you're gaining more of a passive consumer audience as opposed to an audience of active buyers, because the only way that people can purchase from you is buying a higher ticket offer from the get-go. Your goal as a business owner and as a content creator that uses video to market your business and get leads is to reduce that cognitive load and make it almost effortless to take part in that natural next step. For example, if you run a marketing agency, give a free marketing of 2026 report that people can download and exchange their email addresses completely for free. If you are a freelance videographer, maybe you congregate 50 best videos of the year and you break down why they've been so successful for the brands that have created them, just so you can give other people insights into what videos they can create for their own business. Either offer these incredibly cost effectively, affordable, or make them free so that natural next step has almost little to no friction where possible. So what I do for my business to ease people into the process and get familiar with myself and become part of my content ecosystem is I offer free lead magnets. You can check these out in the descriptions below, but I have a free video starter pack that is like 35 minutes of pure value where I literally teach people how to come up with an idea, how to write the script, how to film the video, how to edit the video from start to finish. I have a content to clients workshop, which is about 50 minutes that teaches people how to strategically build a content strategy that gets customers for their business from the content that they're currently creating. I host free webinars once a month to get people in as a taster of the experience of the Content Club itself, and these work really well. I also host free monthly meetups for people that are both in the community and not in the community, just so people can experience what it's like to be part of this networking group of professionals. All of these different types of lead magnets and offers and experiential-led, I guess, lead magnets, you could call them, generate me customers for my business. But what I don't do is say to people, well, if you want to join, you've got to pay $1,000 a quarter. That's a lot. It's a lot of money for some people. And some people need a bit of warming up before they can take that jump. But the key thing here is it has to be natural. It has to be easy. It has to be simple to go through that process, that natural next step. So this is a roundabout way of saying don't put gated, very high ticket barriers up in front of people, because that could be one of the reasons why you're creating an audience of passive followers and not active buyers for your product or your service. Too many people on the internet build audiences that are far too large for what they really need is maybe only an audience of a couple of hundred people, a couple of thousand people. But what you're finding now is some of the biggest creators across YouTube, across LinkedIn, across Instagram, across TikTok are condensing the size of their channels. They're starting new ones from scratch. And instead of catering to an audience of 1 million, 5 million, 10 million people, they're going back down to 30, 40, 50,000 subscribers again. Talking to a smaller group of people that are either going to buy or fly the nest is a better strategy than just creating general entertainment value and building an audience of followers and not active buyers. I, for one, am doing the same, which is why my YouTube channel is so small. We are currently about 1,000 or just under 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate the support if you are new here. I'm Jack. I've created videos for the last decade, and the goal with my YouTube channel is to help you create videos that gets results for your business. One way that you can do that from here is check out this video. It will help you to create better videos for your business, give you more confidence, and make the whole process of creating videos from start to finish feel a little bit easier. So go and check it out, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.